And with that, we welcome you into Press Pass Live, your weekly OMFL podcast show, the world's oldest and longest online Madden CFM in the world. And we appreciate you coming and hanging out with us a little bit. We're going to take the chat off for just a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the chat's not going to come. There it goes. Now we got it. Let me welcome in my buddy, Mr. Dwayne, in the live human person. You see that beautiful face? No longer have to just look at a photo. We get to see Mr. Dwayne live and in the flesh. Mr. Dwayne, how you doing tonight, bud?
Man, I can't complain at all. I got a nice drink next to me. The wife passed out on me pretty early, but I think it's going to be a good night.
I thought I seen a nice little cup of brown adult juice sitting over there. So Mr. Dwayne is relaxing. That's what you need to happen whenever you play Dwayne. So tomorrow night, I'm going to need those rolling in from the wife, keeping you hydrated as we get to playing. You ready to dive into it? Because season 111 has officially started and we are ready to go. Let's recap some games.
Yeah, man. Week one, we had to kind of start the cycle off. You know, we went through the preseason, but we're hitting the regular season, and man, there were some good games this first week. You can just browse through them. I know that most guys can see it. You know, the Ravens pulled out a close win over the Chiefs. The Eagles pulled out a close win over the Packers. Falcons get a really big win over the Steelers to start the season. Bills beat the Cardinals. Bears beat the Titans, which is a game that I'd like to go back and look at on our way back through. Bengals squeeze out against the Patriots. The Colts pull a win out against the Texans for a division win early in the year. Jaguars pull off a stunning win and beat the Dolphins. Fleury moving over from the Rams to a blessing in disguise in the Jaguars, getting out of that NFC West division. The Saints squeeze out against Bird. I watched that game live the other night. Giants lose a close one to the Vikings. I actually need to go back and look at that one. I think they had a couple DCs, but that's a big win for Neisinger in his first game with the Vikings. The Raiders get a division win against the Chargers. The Seahawks get a big win against the Broncos. I have a lot of expectation for the Broncos this cycle. He seems like he's really engaged, and to get a win like that to start the season is great. The Cowboys win against the Browns. Tampa Bay beats the Commanders. The Lions kind of give it to the poor Rams the first game, and I think Tim is really into this cycle, really into his team, and he could be one to watch out for. And then in the Battle of the Juggernauts, the 49ers squeeze out a win versus the Jets, and that rounds out your week one games.
Yeah, I want to look at a couple of these games. I want to look at Minnesota and New York. I know you talked about maybe Chicago, Tennessee. Maybe there's another one in there that you want to break down. I'm going to look at the New York Giants and Minnesota Vikings. They did have to play this one 3 different times, but either way, they got through it, and this was a really, really good game. You can see that the Giants tried to make a comeback here in the second half, scoring 13 points, but Minnesota able to squeeze out a touchdown right there at the end and give themselves the victory. 121 rushing yards for the Minnesota Vikings, but 246 passing yards for the New York Giants, as they were able to get some things running with the rookie. I know it says 1 year, but he actually is a rookie in Luke Givens, coming over from Madden 24. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 250 yards, 66% completion percentage. McCarthy struggled. A QBR of 47.9 with the 1 interception. Let me get back over here. Both teams. Let's get some rushing. Neither team kind of broke it away. 67 for Jones, 55 for Singletary. Neither one of them really having really great games. Neighbors, he's going to be in the mailbag a little bit later. 3 receptions, 81 yards with the 1 touchdown. And then looking at the defense, there was a bunch of guys that made a bunch of big plays here. Harrison Smith coming down for the Vikings with a sack on the day. Preston Smith getting a sack for the New York Giants. And then a bunch of guys with interceptions. Stephon Gilmore, you know all about him. You put him in the Pro Bowl every single season. Marshall with a pick, and then Banks with a pick. A tough loss for the New York Giants. I would not have picked this game, but you got to tip the cap to Mr. Neisinger getting a big win over Mr. Beal. What's the game that you want to break down?
Just to speak on your game real fast, I was just looking at those rushing stats, and in Minnesota, they didn't rush a lot. But you're talking about 18 rushes for what's that, 116, 124 yards. I think that's a recipe for success if he can stick with that. It doesn't seem like he, 18 times in a Madden game is not a lot of rushes, but he did average 6 yards a carry with Jones, almost 8 yards a carry with Dillon. And I mean, Chandler chipped in 4 yards of carry with a touchdown. But in your game, you're talking about a 24-20 game. The big difference is there's that extra turnover by the Giants, and that's very uncharacteristic for Bill to turn the ball over like that. And I figure he'll right the ship. But you got to be excited for the Vikings to pull out a game, a win like that against a tough team like the Giants. The game I want to look at was the Titans and Bears. And I say this because obviously it's a 49-42 game. This is offensive juggernauts. But Colin moved over to the Bears. It's a very different setup for him. He's been the Giants. I think he's been the Chargers. He's kind of always been these high-flying teams, and he goes to the Bears with the young quarterback, young pieces, and you talk about a statement win week one. And I know Kobe with the Titans, that's not Kobe's team. I think Kobe's a Jets fan. He moved over to the Titans. The Titans are kind of a rebuilding team. They got a young quarterback. They got some young pieces. He's got to build in place from him. And so dropping 42 points in week one, says a lot about what he's bringing to the table. But this is a big win for the Bears. I wouldn't want to play, Kobe week one or any week for that matter. But you look at this game, 440 yards total for the Titans, 400, almost 80 for the Bears. Both teams passed the ball well. The Bears rushed for 130 yards, 22 first downs for the Bears, 18 for the Titans. Almost 700 yards total if you put in return yards and everything. It's ridiculous. Neither team had a turnover. It's just crazy. And then you go through the player stats. Caleb Williams plays 100% better on Madden than he does in real life. 345 yards, 4 touchdowns, almost a perfect passer rating. And not to be outdone by much, Jordan Love, 6 touchdowns, 152 pass rating, 377 yards. He was sacked 3 times. You go over to the rushing. Chicago with Swift, 99 yards. Pollard with 61 for Tennessee. These guys did a good job of, spreading the carries out, not pushing that rule week one. You go over to receiving. You had 4 receivers with 100 yards, 2 for each team. These guys are going to be scary. And I would like to say this outlier game, but Kobe is one of the best defenders here. You had 2 sacks combined, or I guess that's 3 sacks for the Bears. Like I said, no turnovers. This was just an offensive game. I do think that Kobe will reel in the defense. I don't see him giving up that many points this often, but that's a huge win for the Bears week one because the Bears aren't a great team. The Titans aren't a great team on paper either. But to move into NFC North where it's wide open with him, Neisinger, Priest, and Tim, anybody can win that division. And to get a big win like that week one is huge for the Bears.
Bro, 32 points in the fourth quarter. And listen to this. I know this is going to get your nipples hard because this is not how you play football. 10 touchdowns combined in this game between these two quarterbacks. 70% and 74% with no interceptions. 3 sacks on Love might have been a slight difference there. But these guys are just slanging and banging over there on offense.
That's scary. If them 2 guys can have offenses like that, especially this time of the cycle, there were some outlier games with some really high scoring. But if you look over the majority of the ones, unless it was a blowout, they were relatively just average scoring games. And to see those 2 guys, kind of already at that level is really scary for the rest of us.
Let's talk a little bit about timing. We were touching on it just a little bit a second ago, but the timing definitely has changed the makeup of some of the games. You were actually the very first one that hit me up and said, I might have broke that, minimum 15 run, 15 pass rule, which I won't lie to my guy. He's right here live and in person. That rule is there because of D. Wayne. You got to make that guy. You got to make that guy pass the ball. He will not pass the ball unless he's got to. But he was just the first of like 7 messages. So we did change it. But the reason that's been so hard and the reason I think we're seeing some tighter, closer games is because we did lower the time. So we're trying to get it around an hour. Even though we did see an outlier in one of those games. I forget exactly which one. I want to say it was Pittsburgh's game. Actually, maybe I'm wrong about that, but their game went an hour and 20. I don't even know why I asked the question and never got answered. But outside of that, they're about an hour and 5, which is where we think we need to be. Still keeping an eye on the plays. We might adjust the time a little bit, but I really like it at 8 minutes. What's up, Kev? What's up, Nice Songer? What's up, Bronco Man? What's up, Shocks fan? Shocks, we prayed for you and the wife tonight. And what's up, Daniel? Good to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with Dwayne and I. But what do you think about the timing? I like the way it feels, but I got to be honest, I'm not a super detailed guy. Like, I'm not going to look and see how many plays we're averaging and like I'm just sort of going, more of a feel guy. Like, how does it feel? And to me, 8 feels really, really good. But you're kind of a guy that slows the game down, doesn't like to pass a lot, plays really good defense, runs that ball. How are you feeling about these games?
Well, and I thought ours might have been an outlier of some sorts because the Browns did throw the ball a lot, but on my side, I mean, I only have one incompletion, and we ran the ball, but we didn't get a ton of yards. It was just like churn. I think both of us had only one possession in that first quarter. It didn't feel right. Honestly, I didn't even feel it till the end at first, and I messaged Denver. I said, "Man," I said, we didn't really have just great drives either. It just seemed like that clock kept rolling and rolling and rolling. And I don't know, I think it churns down to maybe 15. I think that's our chew clock is 15. That could be something you adjust right there. Maybe you adjust to 20. There's stuff to play with. You go back to that Steelers game, you were talking about the Steelers and Falcons. If I'm not mistaken, that's the one you were talking about. They just had a lot of incompletions. You had one side with 9, the other side with 7. And if you have a lot of incompletions, that game will stretch out. So there's going to be certain teams here that will churn that clock and move it. You look at somebody like Priest. Priest is a passing fiend until he can run the ball. When he can run the ball, he would prefer to never pass it. And you get a team that runs the ball 25 times a game, you're probably going to break a rule. I know we moved it down to 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But ours, it didn't help that he did turn the ball over a few times. I didn't have a ton of possessions. But like I said, I think I was 15 and 18, so I almost broke both rules. I might have been booted for that one. I don't know. I could see the fine line. I think we've always been 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. And so 8 minutes, you're talking about 8 minutes of play taken off the game, depending on where it chews the clock down to. Depending on how many incompletions you have. As somebody who don't have a ton of completions, that might have something I have to look at is throwing the ball down the field more. And it might force some people to throw the ball down the field more to get more possessions, to get more plays in. I think you're close, though. I think, we talked about, I think somebody said in our board chat, moving to 9 minutes. And I wouldn't say moving anything, at this time, but it was something to look into. I think 8 minutes, though, statistically doesn't seem like it really affected the league as a whole compared to that 10 minutes. And that's kind of shocking. You would think 8 more minutes, guys would have, 8 minutes less, I'm saying, would have had a lot less stats. And that's not really the case.
Wiggle Gun, thanks for the sub. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Check out Grown Folks if you are an adult gamer. Appreciate you. Dwayne, you're absolutely right. The whole point of it was, how do we shorten some of these games? Because a variety of different reasons. Number one, nobody wants to spend an hour and a half playing one game, several times a week in front of the computer. Like, if you could shorten those, I think they'll go quicker. Guys will be more engaged. They'll be a little bit more plugged in over an entire season. I would also say the other concept behind it was, you let the top dogs, which this is one of them right here. I'm pointing at him. That guy right there on the screen. You give the top dogs an extra 4 or 5 minutes to try to hang with them, they're going to blow you out. So shortening the games gives the guys who maybe are not at the upper echelon skill a little bit more of a chance to hang in there a little bit longer. I think a lot of games in the OMFL, halftime, 3 quarters in, on the old 10-minute settings, they were in that game. It was the fourth quarter we seen that explosion happen, giving up the 21, the 28 points, and those games went from being a really close, tight game to a blowout. So shortening is making those games a bit more competitive. I think the first step is going to be adjusting. The typing was like so loud in my ear. I don't know why. No, it's not your fault. I'm so glad to have you on screen. I was like, why is that so loud? I'm trying to talk. I was powering through it right there, trying to use all my public speaking skills that I have gathered. But the first thing that we may tweak is, I think we're on 17. You might be right. It might be 15 rundown clock. We might adjust that up to like 20 and see if that adds in just a little extra time to give us over the hump without actually adding more time to the play clock. And then number 2 is lower that play clock down even further, like to 15, but add in the extra minute. So go 9 minutes with a 15-second rundown. So I think those are the 2 options. We're going to leave it alone for this season. We're going to keep monitoring it. We've lowered it down to 12, which it was originally 10. but then a lot of guys were like just getting to 10 or just getting to 11, and they were having 45 runs a game. With it at 15, we were seeing more of a balance. Now with the play clock and the time as it is, we've got the balance. So we've just got to figure out kind of that sweet spot. So there might be some small tweaking. I want to hear what you think. You're out there playing those games. Let me know how they feel. To me, they feel really good. You don't have to like dive super deep into your playbook. You can kind of run some things, mix it up without having to repeat a bunch of games. The games don't go too long. That kind of brings us to the second thing I wanted to talk about, Dwayne, and this was a bit of a hot button topic in the board chat here today, and that's zones. They were tweaked a little bit on the last update, but now on this one, they're still not quite there. I am not a conspiracy theorist. We've got Maniac for the conspiracy theorist. He's playing his game right now. That's why he's not here with us. But I would say I do tend to believe, whether it's, I think I seen you playing 2K today, whether it's WWE, whether it's Warzone, whether it's Madden, they make these games where the casual 14-year-old can pick up this controller and put up 40 points and have fun with big plays, right? That's what they want to see on Sports Center. They want to see the Twitter, the Twitch clips, the YouTube shark clips. They want the big play. They want the splash play. I personally believe that even on all-pro setting, all Madden's probably the one we need to go if we want to have really great defense, but there's a trade-off. I already talked about that, why we didn't go all Madden. Everybody plays the same, and in this league, if every player plays the same, nobody's going to pay anybody, nobody's worth anything. It just takes away all the other aspects of the OMFL. So going all pro means we're going to have a dumbed down defense. I know you're seeing it. I'm definitely seeing it. You're a defensive guru. You play great middle linebacker. I play you next. We'll play tomorrow, but without giving away any of your trade secrets, how does the zones and defense in general feel to you?
I didn't think my first game, which is the Browns, Denver was playing with the rookie quarterback who is pretty low overall. And he had his moments where he could pick me apart. If he had time, he picked me apart, per se. He made a couple of throws that sailed on him. My guys were lucky enough to get pressure a few times, or using that middle linebacker, if he can hold it just for a second or two more, then that's just enough to get pressure, just enough to make him make a bad pass. As I was just looking at the percent, I think we have like 8 or 9 quarterbacks throwing over 70% right now. It's still early in the season. That's probably laying a little heavy, just like some of these guys that are really low. It's probably just laying a little heavy too early in the season. I kind of mix mine up. I do try to adjust, some of my zones to mans. I feel like man plays better for me right now, and so I prefer to run more man. But I didn't feel like my zone was just broken. I do think there's time if you don't get pressure to the quarterback, which is not really far-fetched from real life. If you don't get pressure on the quarterback, most quarterbacks are going to find. I mean, you don't need but a few seconds. That quarterback, somebody will get open. Yeah. And I think it's something that'll adjust. I do agree with you on that. I think the game is made for lobby playing. I think it's made for, like you said, that 14-year-old kid pick it up and be able to play. It's not near as much fun. People don't really enjoy 10-7 games like people in the OMFL would like. And some of these people here would like a 10-7 game. So I don't think it's made to be like a defensive juggernaut. I know we go through certain Maddens where once it gets tweaked a certain way, something like that, the defense does step up. And I think we might get to that this cycle. I think it's kind of quick. We're a week and a half into it to kind of jump the gun that the zones are that bad. I think you get 6 to 8 weeks in, you kind of start getting a feel of it. If zones are still broken, I think something that you could address, maybe tweak the sliders. But at this point, I think it's still hit and miss. But I think the pass rush. I think if you get a little bit of pass rush, I think these guys can't just pick apart your zone. And I know that's easier said than done with most guys, but I think if you can get a pass rush, guys get forced and your defense can hold on. But if it's more than 4 or 5 seconds, even in real life, most quarterbacks going to pick your zone apart.
I completely agree with you. I do think that they're broke still. Hopefully we see some more tweaking with that. Now I'm biased, but I think it is one of the best Mads that we've had in quite some time. So I hope they don't go making a bunch of changes, but just some minor tweaks. Speaking of minor tweaks, though, I want to talk about some possible early cycle MVPs and look at a couple of guys that might be really, really impressive on that side of the football. I want to talk early MVPs. Do you have any early MVPs, guys, that you have your eye on already early in the season?
Well, I mean, I kind of think at this point you kind of have to look at the whole Seattle Seahawks roster.
Yeah.
Between the quarterback, Brad White is 636 yards, 8 touchdowns, no picks. You can even go down to
He's
Jordan
missed
Love.
8 passes the entire 2 weeks.
Yes, he's 31 for 39, 8 touchdowns, perfect pass rating in 2 games, and it's not like he's played some good teams. Jordan Love, 6 touchdowns week 1. If you want to look over at the running backs, you have, of course, Isaac Guerrero. I have no clue who that guy is for the 49ers, but he has 174 yards and 5 touchdowns through 2 games. And then, like I said, you go DK Metcalf. He's 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2 games so far. And theoretically, you could go look at defense. I know defense isn't quite getting there just yet, but you have a couple guys. Of course, Fred Warner, 14 tackles, 3 picks, deflection. The defense will pick up as the season goes on. Right now, though, that Seattle team is scary. I'm not sure. I look at DK Metcalf, and he is averaging almost 40 yards a catch. I can only imagine the go routes with the guy who's 6'4", 235, and was he like 97 speed? So at this point, I mean, that the Seattle offense is probably what everybody's chasing.
Yeah, I think Brad White is hard not to pick to be your MVP this early in the Madden cycle. I think there's a couple of other guys that you could sort of, look to and maybe tip your cap towards. Man, this guy has been unstoppable. 8 incomplete passes in 2 weeks. I don't care who you play in the OMFL. Everybody can play good enough to be mentioned and be able to put up points. I think also you've hit on the other one in Isaac, right, for the 49ers. I'm not even going to try to say his last name, but 5 touchdowns already on the season. He's averaging 8.3 yards per carry. He's on a rookie contract. D-Money I don't know how it works out for him the way it does, but it just absolutely continues to work out. And another guy that I would say, he's got a long way to go still, but Malik Neighbors, 7 receptions, 236 receiving yards, a 33.7 average. He's got 4 touchdowns already on the season with a rack of 143 yards. Defense, there's definitely some dudes, but no one that's really smashing out like that. Metcalf, Neighbors because of the touchdowns. Looking at the rushing, you got Allen and Guerrero. I don't even know how do you say it. Sorry, guys. Kill me for that. And then White. These guys are playing really, really good football. I think you'd also have to look at guys like Michael Penix Jr. He's already played, I think, 2 games. I think he played his second today. 33 of 51, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. And he got some really, really good players playing some really, really good football. All right, let's go open up the OMFL mailbag. I can't believe we got here. This is what happens if you don't have Maniac, right? You got Mr. Wayne over here sipping on some adult beverages and no Maniac. We're getting through this one pretty quickly. All right, we got a bunch of questions here. I don't know if you've gotten a look at them, but we're going to dig into them. Shocks fan says, name me a team that struggled last Madden that could surprise people this cycle. Who's a team last Madden that you think struggled but could surprise people?
I think I kind of said that earlier. I thought like the Broncos. I know they've been through spurts, and I know Jay Glaze. He's been here as long as I've been here, and when he's engaged, he's a hell of a player. And when he's not engaged, he can disappear for a season or 2, depending on how life gets at him. I think that's one team that could surprise guys. I think he's got some young pieces in place, and like I said, when he's engaged, I think he can beat anybody on any given day here. And another team, I would say, and I've harped this on multiple times, I think Twinkie with the Eagles are a team that he plays such a grind out. He is one of those guys that plays a grind out defensive style. If he stays out of his own way, he can beat anybody on any day. Like I said, I think I've lost more outside of – I probably have lost more to him in the last couple Maddens than I have anybody. At least a couple times a cycle, he hits me in the mouth. And kind of makes me look back at my game plan, and he just plays such smash mouth football. I think the Eagles are a team that kind of get overlooked, especially in the NFC East. You have the Giants, you have my Cowboys, and the Commanders have kind of been a turnstile team this last one. And I think Shiloh's going to get them in the right place if he can stay engaged and get some people in place. But I think the Eagles are a team that are overlooked, that may not win an NFC East title, may not make an NFC East title game, or an NFC title game, but I do think they can make the playoffs and make a push and really surprise some people when they look up and see that the Eagles are in the playoffs.
It would not surprise me at all. I got to give my guy Tim a shout out here. I know it's early, but he hung 45 points on in week 1. Those Lions are stacked. He sort of had a bit of a rough start with the Lions, but sort of figured things out, got them rolling. I would say that whole conference, though, really, or that whole division, I should say, really catches my eyes. So the Lions, I think, will continue to make noise. I know he didn't quote unquote struggle last year, but he wasn't blowing teams away either. Bears, I wouldn't say the Bears quote unquote struggled. They went through a lot of ownership changes. A lot of guys that were rebuilding those teams in their own likeness. Now with Colin, man, he's already got them rolling. 70 points for him in the first 2 games to have his team starting out 2-0. And then the Vikings, we mentioned him a little earlier. He's right here in the chat talking about that 49ers running back. But Nicehunger's got the Vikings kind of figured out. I'm a little worried about the quarterback situation. He's got to get that thing kind of figured out. Playing really good defense, though. Got to get the offense going. But those 3 teams, and then Priest, like, if you're going to mention the other teams, you might as well mention Priest. So
that's right.
Let's get over here. Where's he at? I know I've seen him. Where we at? Right here. Packers at 1-0 or 1-1. 44 points for him. Only 26 points against. So playing some good defense early in this season. I like what I'm seeing early on. Again, we're a 1.5 weeks deep into the new Madden cycle in season 111, but I'm liking what I'm seeing from those teams right here. Shocks fans number 2 says, what have you liked and disliked about Madden 25 in the early stages? Guys, real quick before Dwayne gives me his answer, you got to give me 1 question per entry because I can't mark it. And so just remember, give me 1 question, hit enter, and then give me your next question. I would say let me start with the dislike. Zones. I think all Madden, all pro, I should say, does a couple of little weird things that I don't love. It just like you'll get the random guy that stops running or the random guy that's just like way out of place. Like, I don't know. There's a few small things that I'm really being minute with it. I think the rushing lane's a little bit tough, and I'm not adjusting sliders all that much, if at all. So I think if I'm really nitpicking, those are probably the 2 things that I would complain the worst. And I would maybe add a third. Punt return blocking. Last Madden cycle, it was awesome, maybe a little too awesome. You could have handedly put a guy in the OMFL Hall of Fame from return touchdowns, but this year it seems like they don't even attempt to block at all. Things I like, I love the new passing. I love the slightly adjusted presentation. I love the flow, like it feels good. The new physics-based, whatever they call locomotion or whatever it's called this time, it feels really good, feels really fluid. Now, because of that new sort of physics-based animation trigger thing that they're doing, you're going to get some weird like, that looked weird, or that didn't look clean, or that had a weird interaction. But if you go back and look at those old 2K games that were full physics, or those old, what was that, like NFL Yard or whatever that like old physics game was, you had some weird glitchy things happen because it's what happens when you try to go physics based. So I'm willing to give the trade-off of a few weird animations being triggered or weird interactions from time to time, giving me that more natural fluid feel. Love sort of the running and the fluidity of the running back, even though the running lanes could be a little bit better. I think quarterbacks, this is a forever. Here's the 2 forever things that have never changed in Madden. Then I'm kicking it to you. We still can't cover the tight end. If you have a fast tight end, he's not going to drop enough passes. He can have 62 catch. He's still going to kill people if you got enough speed. I wish that was a fix. It's probably never going to get fixed. And quarterbacks are just too accurate. We've seen it here. Jordan Love, 75%. and Brad White 80%. Like we're seeing all these guys, these high 70s, high 80s. If we only understood how really hard that is in the NFL, to see that many, and that's with it dumbed down to 35. Quarterback accuracy is the one slider I've messed with, and it's still guys are a little too accurate, especially on the move, especially with guys in their face. They're still a little too accurate. But man, I'm being super nitpicky. What about you?
My most liked and disliked are kind of the same thing, and it's the kicking this year. I love the fact that it's not an automatic kick anymore. At the same time, I hate that it's not an automatic kick because if I get in field goal range, you could kind of get a little more aggressive because you knew, hey, it's money. I'm going to hit it from here. I was just glancing over here, and you've inside of 50. Hey, everybody's still kicking pretty good, but outside of 50, I think we're 1 for 13 so far this Madden as a league, and I think that's a good thing. I think the 50-yard kicks were just too much money last cycle. I mean, you had guys that kind of push 60 or a little over 60 with the right wind and we're just nailing it. And I think that makes guys get a little more, including myself, get a little more aggressive as they get towards that 35-yard line because I've tried in the preseason. I kicked a few long ones and still trying to play with that meter. And it's a lot tougher and it's not just guaranteed. And so between that and I will say the running, like you got some guys that like the averages, like if you look at the yardage guys, like your top guys, they are averaging like 24. The Bengals got 24 yards to carry, which is ridiculous. But then you got 8, 5, 7, 7. If you go over to the attempts, the most attempts, and you go to the top guys, they all have over 20 carries. Jonathan Taylor is 5.3 yards a carry at 31. I'll go 31. Mixon, 28 carries, 3 yards a carry. Bijan Robinson, 27 carries, 4.6. Singletary for the Giants, 25 carries, 3.9. Barkley, 23, 2.7. Outside of your outliers, which is the 49ers running back, Etney from I think that's how you say his name, from the Jaguars, and maybe Josh Jacobs with the Packers. Anybody that has over 20 carries, they're kind of sitting below 5, 4, 3 yards a carry, and I think that's a pretty good average. And I'm kind of thinking, hoping as they get farther on that I think that'll kind of level off, and you won't have guys, averaging 8, 7, 9, 24 yards a carry. I think that will level off the more we run the ball. And I can speak for myself, like as somebody who loves to run the ball, my game, I had 19 carries for 61 yards. That's not a very good game for me. That was dreadful. That will make you pass the ball more than 15 times a game. So I think that the bigger sample size we get, I think the running statistics should level off a little bit.
I want to go back to the kicking really quick. I didn't want to interrupt you, but two things. Number one, there was nothing worse than every Madden before this getting a 3-point lead, a 2-point lead, a 1-point lead with 30 seconds left or 45 seconds left. Like in the NFL, you've probably won. In the OMFL, no way, no how, bro. You're going to get hit with one little Texas route, one little post route, one little crossing route. They were in field goal range for a 57-yarder. Bam, you just lost. And so now I was playing Bird this past week. He was at like the 45, the 40, the 42, and he punted. And I was like, no way he's punting. And I was like, oh, no, he's punting. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Like, and you are. I think you're going to see more strategy, and I do love it. Now, look, there's a bit of a trade-off. I don't love it for my guys like you for a long time that just don't have the – it's not that y'all don't want good internet. It's just like it's not an option because of where you live. Like Maniac, right? Like just doesn't have a lot of – it doesn't feel wonderful. Those guys are a little bit more behind the 8 ball. But overall, I think it's a really, really good thing for us. Where are we going? Tim says, what new jerseys do you like in the new Madden? You got any new favorite jerseys out there?
I'll be lying to you. I hadn't looked at a ton of jerseys. My favorite jerseys are still the reason why I went to the Colts a few years ago, and I'm sure they're still there. I don't know if they're not new jerseys. My favorite jerseys are the solid blue Colts jerseys. I love them. They look real clean. They were the sole reason I took the Colts like 6 Maddens ago was just for the jerseys. And there's one more. I think it's the Jets have that solid green jersey, like the solid – I don't even know if it's a light green, but just a solid green. And for some reason that just sticks out to me. It looks real. I just like the way it looks. The Cowboys have the most boring jersey I've ever seen. It seems like we're
those white helmets are
like
sick.
when everybody else is wearing white jerseys, like for away team or home team, my
Yeah,
away jerseys are the white jerseys,
yeah.
and it makes no sense. And the Cowboys don't have just like a outlier, real cool looking jersey. So I get to look at everybody else's cool jerseys.
LSU's the same way. They wear the normal away color, the white, at home, and I don't know why that little thing drives me nuts, but it absolutely does drive me insane. I like all the whites. Most of my tennis shoes are all white. I like all white. I like the look. There's just something about it, and so like Cincinnati. The Dallas all white, the Saints all whites, like anything that's all white, especially with the white helmets that are not classic white helmets. So like Dallas is all white helmet or Cincinnati's all white helmet. Like those are just super sick to me. I think the Packers have the new all white helmet in Jersey. Like I don't know. The all whites are super clean to me. Kobe Burris. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you do have those solid red shoes. I actually got to point that out to somebody not too long ago because you were on like Sports Center, weren't you? A Saints player scored, and how we here identified you was by the red shoes.
Yeah, I got those red Jordans, and that's usually why I wear them out there because for people who watch, they can super easily just stick out. Kobe, he says, with 1 week in the books, what's your biggest takeaway from your game specifically? That's a good question. Week 1, you said that you felt like it was a little bit of an outlier, but what's something you're taking away?
Well, I say outlier, I guess, in the time we had, but our game was just kind of what I expect with Denver. Denver is a very methodical, smart player. We kind of, I hate to say we just kind of play with there, but we kind of just test each other back and forth to see who was going to give first. And he obviously I have Dak, no matter how you feel about Dak. And Madden-wise quarterback, he's a very solid quarterback. He's starting his rookie quarterback, which I felt like gave me the little bit of an edge because he turned the ball over. But what I did notice that if you do get time, the deep ball is there. And I don't always feel like every Madden outside of, kind of getting lucky and getting that streak play that if they're pressing and you get one of those animations where he just spins out of him and he's wide open. I felt like the deep ball was there. I actually enjoyed the idea that the defenses kind of stopped the run game in ours. And I kind of hope it kind of levels like that for everybody else, but that's kind of how my feeling was. I felt like our defense were good. I know I think I ended up having 37 points, but that's kind of an outlier. I had a kick return touchdown. Imagine that.
Yeah,
and I think I actually had a pick six, or I could be wrong, but the score was kind of an outlier because I think I actually only had like 24 actual points or 23 actual points or something like that. So I really enjoyed the chess match in our game. I feel like me and Denver, like I said, we kind of just test each other for the first half, and I feel like you could tell by the score of that one. I think it was 21-10 at halftime or something like that, and we both kind of opened up. And sadly for him, his rookie quarterback opened up and just made a few mistakes that a rookie low-level quarterback will make. And but I really enjoyed the chess match I had week 1.
Instant takeaways from my game. Number one, my offense was terrible. I was not expecting that. I felt really good in the preseason with my offense. I felt like the game fit me, and man, Bird just stopped me. I don't know. I just was out of my rhythm. The running game was different. I just couldn't get any sort of fluidity going. And I don't know about you, but week 1 always catches me off guard. I don't know if just normal seasons we do the draft and I just run out of time, and week 1 I'm not finished getting my guys ready and I don't have all my incentive points and haven't moved guys where I want to move them yet. It always catches me. That's what I'm doing after Press Pass Live tonight, is staying up late and get my stuff done. But I would say my running game was really bad. My passing game was off. I just felt off with the new passing, the new running. I don't know. The update changed things for me, and I hadn't played since the update because of the hurricane and the work trip. The second thing I would say is pressure. I want to see more pressure, a little bit more pressure. And I felt like in our game, quarterbacks sort of had all day to kind of pick their poison, and that I don't think is really good for the league. I think you want to see high pressure and watch guys kind of adjust from there, because if you don't, you're going to start to see a lot of blitz. And that was the two reasons I feel like I won my game. Bryce Young was a little off and just missed on a couple of throws, and I got him on 2 user picks. And number 2, Bird was sending the blitz a lot, and if you block up the blitz, man, you got time. You're gonna find somebody wide open. Overall, though, I love it, and I'm having a really good time. Kobe Burris, says, is there a player or stat that stood out or is standing out through 1 or 2 games? I know for me, Wayne, it was what we've already talked about, and it's the quarterbacks. We've got, let's just count it really fast. We've got several. You told me the number a second ago. We're not going to count Drew Lock, but Prescott, 92%. Not surprising. Mahomes, 88%. Walters, 80%. White, 79%. Nix, 74%. That should never be a thing. Joe Duke, 72%. Luke Givens, 72%. And Jordan Love, 70%. With a bunch of guys in the high 60s. This is way too many quarterbacks. I know we're a week and a half deep. These percentages are way too high, and I don't love that. And I'd love to, and we may go a little bit lower with that quarterback accuracy because this is too high. And I don't know that quarterback accuracy would solve it. I think it goes back to my point of no pressure. Let's just look really fast before I hand it to you. Let's go defense. I think your leaders are 3 in sacks. Yeah. Right. So Oliver 3.5, Van Ness 3, Smith 3. So through 2.5 games, you got 3 guys at 3 or over 3. Everybody else, you got a couple of guys at 2. Everybody else is below 2. And just overall, you probably got 35 guys that have at least 1 sack through 2 weeks. That's not a lot in my opinion. So I think if I could figure out a way to get a little bit more pressure, which we've done a few little things. I'm trying not to touch sliders a lot. Priest said Packers have over 20 tackles for loss in 2 games. That's awesome, man. You're playing really good football, Priest. To me, that's the stat that sticks out. The quarterbacks are way too high. If that continues, we're going to have to look at that a little bit. Or, I know Board's not going to love it, but we'd have to go back to the drawing board and really look at all Madden again because some of me, Dwayne, and then I'm shutting up, some of me thinks that this league just competitively may be just too good to be on All-Pro. And unless we dramatically mess with the sliders, and I just sort of refuse to mess with the sliders anymore. It's just it's too much of a headache. They change the game too much, and you chase your tail too much. So I don't know what kind of stats are sticking out to you.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. It's kind of a catch-22 because if you turn the pass rush up, then it will turn the heat up on some of them.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, but it's really going to punish those guys that already have a hard time being a quarterback.
You're right.
And it's such a fine line. And we talk about all Madden. You really hate to move to all Madden just for the fact, like you said, it kind of puts all the players on a level playing field. And for some of these guys that already don't pay guys, they're really not going to pay guys anymore. And so I guess that kind of sticks out. If you even look at search the stats, I think we only have, there's actually, and we're kind of tween, it's a week and a half in, but there's only 4 quarterbacks that have been sacked over 4 times, and one of them is Henry for the Cardinals. He got sacked 7 times apparently in 1 game. So it's really skewed. And kind of the only ones I've seen today, like I watched 4 or 5 games last night and today, just kind of browsing, just looking at different games that were streamed. And the only sacks I've really seen were guys just running deep routes, and they just eat it, take it, and they just eat it. Yep. And I sure don't want to see it every play, but you almost miss that times that you would have like Joey Bosa back in the day where he would get even in real life, they would get just a second half, 2-second sack. It shouldn't happen every play. It shouldn't happen every 5 plays. But 3 or 4 times a game, those stud defensive ends should make a play for you, especially early on in Madden when guys don't have good offensive lines. Yep. Some of those pass rushers should be feasting right now. But like I said, specifically, a stat sticks out for me, and I said that earlier, was the kicking. And I'm just looking forward to – I would love to see a sample size of the season to see if the kicking really shows that this style of kicking. And I did notice one person who hadn't kicked a field goal yet, and you can only imagine who that is D-Money. And I'm really curious to see if he just drills them like everybody else drills them, because I always reminisce about the time that I almost beat him in an OMFL Bowl, and my guy tried to hit stick him and knocked him out of bounds. He's like, well, I knew when that happened. It was like a 53-yard field goal. He's like, yeah, I knew when that happened. It was money. I was going to make that kick. I wish I had that confidence when I kicked.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious to see, but just that's the one stack. So I would love to see these field goal kicking things. And in real life, field goal kickers are not money anymore. And I like the idea that 50-yarders.
Did you look at the long?
Yes, was it 49 or 53? It's your guy.
One kick over 50.
Yes.
Everybody else is below 50. I love
That's
that.
right. And only one of them was blocked. And
Yeah.
I actually think that was, well, he missed 2 50 yards, or one of his 50 yarders was blocked. But yeah, that's kind of how I am. I do think our pass rush. I would love to see some of these stud pass rushers make a. You have to pay. Why am I going to pay Micah Parsons 35, $40 million a year if he's not going to make a difference?
Yeah.
Or in the case of a quarterback, if anybody, you can pick any quarterback, play with anybody. Not
Yeah.
everybody is deep money. Not everybody can just run a system through him. He is literally like a Shanahan. You can put Purdy or whoever you want with him, and he
I
plays
agree.
good. But if
And you
every
too.
quarterback plays the same,
You too.
not to his level.
You were 13
but
for 14. You too.
That's a good quarterback. That's a good quarterback. But yeah, I am excited to see. I would love to see a bigger sample size. I think as we get even 6 to 8 games in, I think we'll start seeing some of these things level off, and I would be interested to see from there if the sack numbers go up and if the completion percentage goes down.
Yeah, I tend to believe the sacks and the zones are just it's the setting. We went with all pro, and so it's going to be a little bit easier because they want just sort of anybody to pick it up. Lobby ball, you called it. I think that's 100%. Priest says rookie wide receiver Malik Neighbors, numbers after week 1: 4 receptions, 155 receiving yards, 3 tutties. Will this be a regular thing for the young rookie? You think Malik can keep it up?
I think Bill's going to feed him, and I think he is the recipe. I'm trying to pull him up real fast. I think he's the recipe for a perfect rookie guy. He's 93 speed, 92 acceleration. He's quick. He's fast. He's really good out of the box. But that's most rookie receivers here, and there's just certain coaches that are going to force feed him. And Bill's not a force feeder by any means. I mean, he's got, well, like you said, 4 catches, 155. That's not force feeding. That guy just broke some plays. He didn't have 8 or 10 catches. But I think that's most guys. If you look through the thing, I would imagine a lot of the rookies, especially these big-name rookies, had great first couple of weeks. But I do see the Bills keep going because, honestly, Bill with the Giants don't have anybody else at receiver. And that's not even an NFC East joke. They just don't have a lot. And even in real life, they have to throw to Malik Neighbors. And I think Bill's going to do that. Bill plays really good defense, and I think he's going to feed his beast at receiver.
I agree with you. Look, Malik, I'm of course skewed on Malik because he's from LSU. He's a stud. And I think Bill, we've seen it in his Seahawk days. Now, maybe haven't seen it quite as much since then, a little bit here and there, depending on the season with Buffalo. But looking back at those Seahawks days, I'm drawing a blank on the really fast, small wide receiver for the Seahawks. Oh, man, I'm drawing a total blank now. But let me see if I can look it up really fast. Seahawks, because they're right here.
That's right. Lockett, are you?
Lockett. He would tear you up with Lockett. He would hit you for big play after big play. Lockett had the speed, the route running. Malik Neighbors is a poor man's Lockett, a rookie Lockett, and he'll get him there. And Bill knows how to hit that. What is going to determine whether he can stay with it is the quarterback play. I'm pretty sure he's got a rookie quarterback. So rookie quarterbacks sort of hit and miss, but Malik is definitely going to be a guy that will be in the rookie of the year runnings. Last question, then we're going to wrap things up. Priest says, can the Seahawks quarterback Brad White continue to put up these numbers? Man, he's a hot button tonight. In 2 games, he's 31 for 39, 636 passing yards, 8 tutties, no interceptions. I think you and I have talked a lot about this. I think absolutely he can keep it up. It's been proven time and time again that he can keep it up. He is. I don't even feel like he's a big secret in the OMFL. He's like a talked about secret. And I think it's because I don't even want to say this, but Dwayne, he kind of craps the bed when he gets to the playoffs. He's sort of the Super Bowl hero of the regular season, but then gets in the playoffs and doesn't quite deliver the same way that Brad White delivers all season long. So I think absolutely he'll keep it up, but he needs to get over the hump by doing it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the money there. I think, Meek and Brad White together, I think are going to keep this pace up. I think he's going to be perfection like he is right there. I don't think so. He's got the Dolphins. He's got the Lions. He's got the Giants, the 49ers, the Falcons, the Bills, and the Rams coming up on his next, 7 games? he's going to come down to earth at some point. I mean, Meek's a great player and has made every quarterback he's had look really good with the Seahawks. You touch on, getting to the playoffs as somebody who has had my struggles against, certain teams in the playoffs, and Meek has destroyed me in the playoffs a couple years ago. I think it's so easy to play loose in the regular season, and you get in the playoffs, you've worked all season to get there, and you can come out so tight in the playoffs, and you just don't want to mess up so bad. You kind of get off your game. And there's certain guys that'll do it to you. And if you come in there tight and don't play your game, they'll take advantage of it. And they're just too good here. You have too many good owners here to play like that in the playoffs. But no, he keeps the numbers up. I just don't think he can't keep that type of numbers up. This percentage, this yards, that many touchdowns, no interceptions. Not with the juggernaut of schedule he's got coming up. I will say, Priest knows I love Priest. This is one of the few times I've seen Priest ask a question that he didn't sneak a question about his own team in there. And I think that is funny, Priest. That's I'm just poking with you. But, I think him and White, they could be scary as the season goes on. He's got a couple of games. I'll be really interested and tuned in to see if he can turn it up on that team as well.
Maniacs, he is the king of underhandedly asking about his own team so that we can brag on him a little bit. Priest thought that was funny in the chat. Logan, what happened in the game? I was watching that game before Press Pass Live because I wanted both those teams to lose, even though that is not physically possible. They better learn how to score more than 10 points when they play my Saints in the next 2 weeks. Mackie said, I heard that term before. We call it a den brew. What term, Mackie? What term did we use that you would call it a den brew? Mr. D. Wayne, it has been a play. I love when people can see you. And I'm not the only one that people can see. Let's give some closing thoughts. Week 1 is in the books. In week 2 is about halfway done. You and I will play tomorrow. I will be crying crocodile tears on my stream. So if you want to come watch me cry some crocodile tears, come tune in. But give me some closing thoughts on week 1 in season 111.
Well, so far I think it's been good. We hadn't had no major blow-ups. Nobody just super upset. I'm sorry, Nate. I just got to try to get revenge for the ass kicking your Saints gave my real Cowboys on Sunday. I'm still reeling on that one. But yeah, I think it's been good so far. I've really enjoyed it. I think most of the people here have enjoyed it. They've also enjoyed just having Madden back and starting another cycle. And you're also about, what do we say, week 5, guys can start trading those first-round picks. I would figure guys are going to start talking that back up and getting trades going. And guys, somebody like the Packers, I think is he 1-1 going into his? I was trying to reel him up. Where's he at?
Yeah, I think he's 1-1.
He's actually he's 1-1, and it is a different style getting into week 5 and you're 3-0, 3-1, 4-0, and maybe you feel more inclined to trade the first-round pick. But if you're 0-4, you probably want to hang on to that first-round pick. And I think that was a good move by the board to go with that. And that's not a shot at just anybody specifically. I just think it's good for guys to kind of know what they're going to. Everybody goes into the season wanting to go 17-0. It doesn't always work out like that. And I'm just excited to keep going. You got a lot of good games coming up. You got a lot of good games left in this week, too, that are going to be good games. And so I'm just excited to get it going. And I'll be excited to have Maniac back. We'll have a lot longer show next time.
A whole hell of a lot longer show. We went an hour tonight. It would be at least 2 hours. I even put a note in there. It was like, we can only talk about one each, or we're going to be here all night like we were last week. I think, thank you, Logan. I think it has been a great start to the cycle. Now, it's not a perfect game, but it feels really good. And I feel like if you're going to nitpick this one, it's one of two reasons. Either A, you just want to nitpick for nitpick's sake, and B, and probably A and B are related, or at least kissing cousins. And that's like you rather play NCAA, which is fine. Like, yeah, I mean, that's not a shot at anybody. Some people just like that game better. I find this a really enjoyable game. I'm having a lot of fun. That is until tomorrow night whenever I play this guy right here, and the fun is going to go right out of the window. Mr. Maniac said, I meant to say this. He says, whatever you do, don't run full pad training ever. Fleury said injuries. He says, no, everyone is yellow and slow.
That's right.
I was like, yep, that's sort of the point. And then Colin said, I practice full pads until week 8. I'm not running a daycare. And he's over here just dropping it. Pre says, who has the most drop passes? I have no clue. I don't think it shows that. Let's look really fast.
It don't show it like if you search the whole league at one time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You might be able to find it on individual
one, huh?
teams.
Yeah.
I don't think it might show it on Neon Sports, but
Neon Sports shows it not here. So yeah, and I don't have Neon Sports up because I have a Mac and their Mac app ain't working right now. So yeah, my final thought is that I'm having a lot of fun right now. I hope that you guys are having a lot of fun. We're making adjustments as we go early in a cycle, so you'll continue to see some small adjustments, but we're going to try really, really hard to avoid any major adjustments. The only thing I could even foresee us looking at, number one, the first one we talked about was time. Number two is, could we ratchet up pressure just a little bit? Outside of that, I don't see anything else changing. The game is the game. We will adjust to it, and hopefully we'll roll into season 2. The only thing I can see long term, I could see us, if All Pro doesn't get better with maybe a couple more patches or whatnot, I could see us one day looking at All Madden to finish out the cycle, but we're a long way from that. Excited about doing the Madden generated draft classes. I did a bunch of random stuff, so it really is going to be random about what positions are normal, what positions are weak, what positions are strong. So every season, there's going to be 3 that I picked to be strong, 3 that I picked to be... Actually, I'm doing some randomized numbers. I'm sorry. I'm doing randomized numbers to pick how many strong, randomized numbers to pick how many weak, and then randomize in each of those to pick which ones are strong and which ones are weak. It's all random using some random number generators. So I'm excited to see how that works out. Trades, I expect, as Dwayne said, to blow up. A couple of announcements that have come out here recently was the adjustment to 12 instead of 15. We have opened up coaching trees completely. And I think the last one was some announcements that we sent to our group chats here today. And that is coaching trees, the minimum. Don't forget that you have to fall into the running FBR for the 3 yards and less, and then inside the 10-yard line. And then finally is just, you guys got to post. Even if you've talked and you figured out a time, you got to post and let us know that you got a time and when that game's going to be played. Dwayne, thank you for joining me here tonight. Thanks for being on camera. You fought with it a little bit, but you got it figured out pretty quickly.
We did. We got it. We'll be way ahead of it for next time.
Way ahead of it. He's got the glasses. I could hear him talking to the wife about why he needed to steal her ear pods real quick. So it's been a great show. Guys, make sure to hit the like button. Leave us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. If you heard us talking about a subject, leave the thoughts. That interaction helps, and I love to read them and interact with you after the show's over. Come hang out with me tomorrow. Big old crocodile tears as Mr. Dwayne pushes all my stuff in all the way. Until then, remember, you matter, you're loved, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.
Later, guys.
Smash that like and subscribe.